It's our weekly sports episode. Well, you might as well call it our infamous podcast about sports and stuff. Where on this podcast you get to hear a little bit of information about what's going on in the sports world, what's going on in the video game world, a little bit of the technology information, get a little bit of a music knowledge chat, two of our personal faves that we do on the show, the artist spotlight, and of course the infamous ass of the week. So stick around. You might actually enjoy the episode. Episode 131 had a slight delay, almost remembering what number it was. Been episodes coming back and forth. Back with another episode. Your host back with another one, BT. Got my co-host with me.
Back at it again.
Dimitri holding it down. Left me in. Let's kidding. No, we had some stuff going last week. I'm not gonna put too much business in the wide, and this not from your perspective. This from mine. I had things happen, so it worked out good, even though we weren't able to co-host. I had to help some friends with some stuff, so life happens.
Yeah.
Pushed the show, pushed it as best as I could. It was a decent show, but like I said, it's always different because we're trying to make sure we get the show in sync with the flow of like doing our weekly shows and weekly picks and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So before we jump into week five's picks. Well, matter of fact, we can do it. I'll do backstory, and then this is always like, since I didn't have it listed as a topic. Turns out for Fantasy League, I'm doing a little better than I expected this year. In the league that we're in together, I'm actually 2-2, which I think last year by this time I was like 1-3.
Yeah.
So
you are doing better this year.
So it's a little bit of a progress, but of course I can be excited about that league, and then on my other league I'm actually still defeated, 0-4. So I'll kind of give an add-on because I promised I would tell you about it. I did get my player stuff set up. I got them up to 75, I believe. Just got to get on. Now it's just a matter of getting on and grinding and getting some points. Trying to get his stats built up and all. Just trying to figure out which route to go. I know you mentioned going court, going like an actual team matches or playing against like other teams. So I'm still gonna mess around with it. Might be doing some streaming on that. But
yeah, and with my as you were talking about fantasy football, the league that we're in together, I'm actually 3-1. The 1 week I lost was actually
1 week
was to you. When I didn't play TY when he dropped 27.
Yeah.
But and then my other league, it's a league at work.
Okay.
4-0 actually in that league. So
okay. So that, and then that explains why whenever we do the weekly picks, I'm always in the battle. Okay. So that kind of ties into it. I can't be mad. I'm just, like I said, it is what it is. Just I wanted to make sure, because I know we didn't have this, because we always go over the notes in advance of what the topic's gonna be. And I always throw wild cards in, and it's not really a wild card. I always try to make sure we do like our normal check-in on just talking about the sports world outside of actual sports. I will tell you all in advance, there will be no artist spotlight this week. I found someone to mention as an artist since he did pass, and that was Tom Perry. Condolences to his family. He passed early this week. I want to say it was either Tuesday or Wednesday.
October 2nd.
It was on the 2nd. Okay, yeah. See, that's where the fact check hits for me. But he so Tom Perry had passed, and it was kind of ironic because today I was like, well, I really don't have an artist spotlight, and then I happened to go back and listen to some of his music, like I found like an essential album or something, and I was listening to some tracks. I was like, yeah, that would have been a good artist spotlight, but I may be thinking of something different with artist spotlight. I'm gonna see. Not really gonna push too far ahead of that yet, but we'll get into this stuff in a later bit of this podcast. This week we got a fun podcast. I can't lie. It's kind of brief, but it's simple and it's kind of got a good flow to it. So I did promise. So I'll give a catch up on week 3 and week 4 as far as the weekly picks. Week 3. I had a very horrible week, to say the least. I actually was 4-11 in week 3. Dimitri went 8-7. So overall, the records, which I'm not sure how that counted. No, it makes sense. Never mind. For week 3, I ended up being 21-23, and Dimitri ended up going 21-9. So then we went into week 4, so which last week's picks. We had good weeks. He got me by a couple of games, and it still kind of evened out. In the hindsight, I know percentage-wise I'm getting destroyed because I'm still under 500. I went 8-7. Dimitri went 10-5. Overall, I'm 29-30. So hopefully this week I can get over 500. If I lose that many games, something's wrong. And Dimitri's overall is 31-14. So we'll go into our week 5 picks, and as you all know. Shout outs to NFL Pick Watch, and where are my manners? Podcast intro and outro for the podcast are being done thanks to Grimecraft. Uploads are done on Spreaker.com. Took me 4 minutes to realize that. Spreaker.com is where these podcasts are uploaded. Microphone, of course, is the Blue Yeti microphone. So, like I said, NFL Pick Watch is kind of the cheat code for just kind of getting the overall look of each matchup as they're being played. Kind of pissed at myself that I picked against the Panthers last week, so I'm probably going to have a fun week with some of these matchups. And I'm not going to type any of them out. I'll go back, like I said, like I do each time, and address them after the show. So ironically, because we didn't pick for that game, who did you actually have for the Patriots Bucks game?
I would have had the Patriots. I thought the Patriots would have won by more, though. Like, say if we would have said, like, a spread,
yeah.
A spread, like, I would have lost that.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the Patriots were going to win. They lucked out and won it, but they still won. I know you talked about this pre-show. Are you still solid in your selection with them being Super Bowl, having a chance to win the Super Bowl? Right now, no, I'm definitely not confident in it. However, it's still early in the season, so things can change.
Yeah.
But right now, no, I'm definitely not confident in it.
Okay.
Kansas City definitely looks like a better team to make
better dark horse. Yeah,
exactly.
I can go with that. All right, so I have been failing at these picks, so I'm gonna still stick to picking first and thinking that I can pick right in one or two of these games. This is our fun week. Don't be upset. Atlanta's not playing this week. This is when bye week's coming to play because I know it's coming.
Yes.
So first game we have on tap is Bills at Bengals. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Bengals. It's a close matchup, but I'm picking the Bengals for that one.
The Bills and Bengals. The Bengals started off slow. I believe they won last week.
Right.
Tyrod Taylor's been playing pretty well. I'm going to go with the Bills on that one.
Okay. We got Jets and Browns. Should be one of the greatest games of the week. I don't know how I'm supposed to pick for this type of game because it's like the Browns have done nothing exceptional. I don't think have the Jets won a game yet. I think the Jets
they did win one game. I believe they won last week.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the wild shot and go for the Jets on this one.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be a weird game. That kind of reminds me of the Browns and Indianapolis game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
The Browns lost that one. However, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Browns on this one.
Okay. Next up, got my boys Carolina going against the Lions. Carolina surprised me because they actually beat New England, and I was kind of upset that I picked New England last week. Lions, of course, have been playing pretty solid most of the season. I'm actually going to pick Carolina because since they gave me a chance, I'm going to try it again, and if they let me down, then I already know what time it is.
Cam Newton's had an interesting week to say the least,
yes.
And
we'll talk about that later.
I think he'll come out and show and play well.
Okay.
However, I also think that Detroit Lions will play as well too.
Okay,
so I'm gonna go with the Lions in that one.
All right, cool. 49ers at Colts. Help me remember. Luck is in this one, right?
He is not.
He
just started practicing, I believe.
Okay, so
but they still have Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, so 49ers at Colts. Ugh. It's the 49ers. I'll still pick the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. The 49ers are just pretty bad. Carlos Hyde is nice, but I think the Colts are going to win it.
Yeah. We got our fun matchup. I'm going to talk about this story because someone brought this up in a sports group, and I hate irony, but it's always random when it's brought to your attention. We're at that point of the year when injuries randomly occur, and it was a mere coincidence that around this time or at a similar point in last season, both Mariota and David Carr got injured, and we're at that same point right now. So we have the Titans going against the Dolphins. I'm actually gonna still pick the Titans for that game because they've had a pretty good run so far this season.
They have played pretty well this year. they picked up Brandon Whedon.
Yeah.
I still don't think he's better than another free agent that's out there.
That we always try not to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And I picked the Dolphins last week with Jay Cutler, believing that they would win.
Yeah.
And I'd rather go down with losing. I'm not going with him again. I'm going with Tennessee.
Okay. I get it. Like Cutler is the best and worst of both worlds. And I only say the best and worst because you can't take away from the fact that Cutler is still a decent quarterback, but the tough part now is with football, and this is just my personal opinion, and I'm not sure if it was addressed. I don't think we've addressed it on this show. I think what's tough about Cutler is I don't know if his head is fully into football.
He's the least caring quarterback with arm talent.
Right.
With good arm talent. He doesn't really care. To me.
Yeah.
That's what it seems.
That's as transparent and as real as that is, that's kind of what it comes down to. So Chargers at Giants. This is probably going to be really reckless of me to say because both of these teams you kind of getting hit or miss. Majority of the field has Giants. I'm actually going Chargers.
The Chargers find a way to lose close games. I forget what their score was last week, but this year and last year they're combined 1-10.
Right.
In games within one score. They just find a way to lose those close games, and I just think that the Giants they're due to win one. So I'm going to go with the Giants in that one.
Okay. Arizona at Philly. Actually taking Philly for this one. Unless something crazy happens. I mean, Arizona's okay. I mean, you still got Carson. You got Carson Palmer and, of course, Fitzgerald. But, I mean, Philly's been on a good run so far this year.
Yeah, Carson Wentz has been playing well. David Johnson's not there for the Cardinals, so that's not hurt them. Yeah, I'm going to go with Philly on that one as well, too.
Okay. Jags at Steelers. I've been putting my foot in my mouth every week. I've kept picking against the Steelers, and it's going to shoot. It's going to bite me. So this time, if I'm dumb enough to actually pick against them again, something's wrong. So I'm actually going Steelers on this one.
Yeah, Antonio Brown has to make up for a little bit of being a hothead last week. So I think he's going to show out. Hopefully Le'Veon Bell does as well, too, since I have him in fantasy. I'm going to go with the Steelers in this one, too.
Word. Okay. Ravens at... Ravens at Raiders. Somewhat is a conference matchup, but long distance division, not even in the same realm. Actually going to pick the Raiders for this one because the Ravens, nothing against the Ravens, is just offensive firepower, not really there. Crabtree's been pretty consistent this year, even though they may not have Card to helm, shouldn't be too bad of a run for them against Baltimore.
Yeah, Ravens are kind of hit and miss. They haven't been playing too well this year. I'm gonna still go with the Raiders, even though they don't have Derek Carr at the moment.
Okay. Interdivision matchup. Seahawks at the Rams would be really dumb. I mean, I know it's kind of ironic because it's like a very close pick based on the website. But I'm actually going to kind of go against the grain and pick the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks, their offensive line has not been looking well this year. Mm-hmm. The Rams have shown promise, especially with their win last week against the Cowboys.
Right.
I think they're going to show that they always play the Seahawks tough. And I just think their defensive line is better than the Seahawks offensive line. So I think the Rams are gonna squeak that one out, especially they're in LA. So
okay.
We'll go with them.
All right, cool. What I would personally consider as game of the week. I know I joke very petty and random about Jets and Browns, but Green Bay is going to Dallas, and as we always know, it's Dallas. So, as I always say, if you are not a Dallas fan and that game comes on, stay away from social media because you will get plenty of information and play-by-play. You don't hear it as much from Green Bay. I'm actually going to surprise people in saying this. I'm going to pick Dallas. I don't want to pick Dallas, though. That's the thing, because I don't know what I'm getting from them. That's always my question. Yeah,
Dallas is a tough one. They haven't been playing too well this year. However, I think they're gonna play up to Green Bay. However, Green Bay is. I just like Aaron Rodgers, so I'm gonna go with Green Bay on that one.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't. It's never.
It's gonna be a close game.
Yeah, I'm never one to pick against. Picking against Green Bay is tough, let alone picking against Aaron Rodgers, because you know Aaron gonna give you at least he can throw for 200 blindly, like with no problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this might be that one time that I can give Dallas fans their props for saying, "Hey, we got a win." going to I believe this will be the late Sunday night matchup, Kansas City at Houston. I'm actually going to pick Kansas City. Texas is good. Houston Texans are a pretty good team, but Kansas City should be able to pull that one off on the road.
I believe it was 2 weeks ago when I said I wanted to go with the Jaguars over the Ravens, and I didn't do it. This is one of those games when I want to go with the Texans over the Chiefs, but I'm not going to do it. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Okay. And our Monday night football game pits the infamous, consistent Sam Bradford. If they still got Bradford, right?
I believe he's hurt right now. I believe Case Keenum's their starter.
Okay, so Case Keenum, as I always call it, the quarterback carousel of madness. So the Vikings at the Bears. Trubinsky, I believe, has been given the keys, which should be fun.
Yes.
I still would pick Minnesota for this game.
The Bears still have a lot of developing to do, growing to do. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota in that one as well too. Okay,
so those are our picks. Remember, if there's a reason that I'm not winning, you know why? Because as you've heard, I'm going to get someone that's undefeated in a fantasy league. But I still come out and give my best effort. So that's all I can do for you. I guess because I never really realized it with WNBA, the WNBA. In case you may or may not know as a sports fan, the WNBA actually, and before I continue, I do want to apologize. Not in a bad way, just to be transparent. I really didn't see or really catch much football stories or highlights that really was like a major attention grabber this season. Not this season, this past week. There was our big story, which we have for Ads of the Week we'll talk about later. But for the most part, there wasn't really a lot of NFL news. College has kind of been the same. Like I said, I don't have a tab or anything to address it. From what we're looking at in how things are kind of pitting themselves out, it looks like we're possibly going to get Alabama versus Clemson part 3, based on them playing against each other last year in the playoffs championship game, as well as they've had another matchup with each other before. So it looks like that'll kind of be like a big matchup.
And how Clemson started off this season as well too. They've been playing well. They beat Louisville handily, and Alabama's been playing well also.
Right.
However, there are going to be 2 other teams in the playoffs as well too. So we'll see who else joins them there.
Do you think a Pac-12 team has a chance of making any spark? Preferably USC.
I
know that's random. It's
I don't believe so because they just recently lost as well too, and their loss wasn't a good loss also. So I don't think that they're going to make it there.
Okay, cool deal. So like I said, spinning into the WNBA world, we have there was the WNBA finals that happened over the past couple of weeks. Haven't really talked about any other games. Oddly enough, Game 5 occurred, and the series was tied 2-2. And the Minnesota Lynx did end up getting the victory, where they were able to beat the LA Sparks 85-76. Not really a big story behind it, other than Sylvia Fowles. She had 17 points, broke her own record. She had 20 rebounds to lead the Lynx to their 4th championship in 7 years, which in WNBA terms is a pretty strong dynasty. If you look at the WNBA's history, every time you think about 4 championships, the first thing that always comes to my mind is when the league first started and the Houston Comets, which, random fact, I almost forgot that it was even a thing. They won those championships. They played a couple of years after, and literally out of nowhere, the team just disappeared. It was defunct in no time. So they had those 4 championships with Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, Cheryl Swoops. So to have a team like the Lynx with Maya Moore, Simone Augustus, Sylvia Fowles coming in, they ran a pretty good store. Lindsey Whalen, they've had a real good team to be able to compete and just pull off championships with really no challenge.
Yeah, they have, and they've also. I was actually watching their Game 5. It was just on while I was at the gym, and they brought in a pretty big crowd as well too. Yeah. Generally, with the WNBA, they don't fill up the stadium. However, for their championship game, they did at least fill up the stadium as well too.
Yeah.
So that's good that they're bringing more people to watch. Also, Maya Moore was another player who played in the game, and she's also showed that she can win a lot as well too.
Oh yeah,
she has 4 WNBA championships, 2 college national titles.
Yeah,
and then she won in high school 3 high school championships as well too.
Yeah, she's competitive. I've always known Maya Moore to be competitive, and then it's kind of ironic because she was part of the Uncle Drew commercial trend that was going on when they were doing the bringing everyone together. She was she actually was the female. If you ever go back and look at those videos, she was playing as the female in that as the, you know, the older lady at that point when they had her on in makeup. So shout outs to them for that. Even though LA lost, it's kind of ironic because last year they were actually in the finals against, I believe it was against Minnesota.
It was, yeah.
And LA won last year. So I'm not gonna say I'm an undercover Cynthia Parker fan. I like Cynthia Parker as a player. She actually plays pretty good ball.
Candace Parker.
I'm sorry. Why did I? Whoever the Cynthia Parker person is, sorry, she's not existent. Yes, Candace Parker, CP3 of the WNBA. She definitely had made a huge mark in the game. It's a unique season this year because one of the teams that we always talk about, or you look at with the WNBA, Phoenix, was kind of a note. They had a good season, but it wasn't as big of a storyline this year. I know they had a lot of not off court stuff, but just little personal things that went on. I know what's her name? Brittany Griner went through her foolishness and everything. So hopefully next year they'll bounce back and kind of be in the talks again. So going to the NBA, and it's kind of a coincidence that they showed these two individuals in the main picture. But as you termed it, I want to make sure I get this correct. It was like you kind of play it as we playing street yard pickup. Like, hey, I'm gonna pick this person. I'm picking this person. The NBA has decided to remove East and West and kind of have it be kind of an open pool as far as playing. And there's kind of some rules to it as well.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. They made it so like it's not East and West. However, they still, each conference still gets 12 representatives that go to it. Mm-hmm. However, they may be on different teams. Like, as you said, it'll be like a schoolyard pick. Yeah. Where, like, the fans, the media, and the owners, I mean, not the owners, I believe, like, the GMs or something of that nature will pick, like, and whoever gets the most votes will be the two captains. And then the two captains choose from there. Yeah. They'll choose from the two starting fives. And then they'll choose the reserves as well, too, on who they want. Yeah. They're thinking that this is going to go ahead and spice it up since the last year. The last, like, I believe it was 3 or 4 years.
It's been over 150 or 180. It's been in the 160s and 170s as far as scoring.
Yeah, they beat the scoring record every year in the last 3 or 4 years. And last year was 182 to 192. So they're hoping they can get a little bit more competition in the game. Yeah. So hopefully this does, you know, they say like this will affect people's pride, which it may, you know, being the last pick, trying to prove that you shouldn't have been the last pick out of everyone. So this brings up fun conversation. It can also be pettiness as well too.
Yes, this is a lot of pettiness because so here's what makes this an interesting All-Star event. As you know, and you know I'm going to say this, the game is being held at your hometown. Staples. At the Staples Center. So it's going to be in LA. So that brings up my first question, which I probably know I'm reaching for asking this, but do you think Lonzo will be an All-Star this year?
I don't believe so. Okay. It'll be in the Rising Stars game.
Yeah, you can still do both.
No, I'm saying he'll be in the Rising Stars game.
And that's about all you'll give.
I can't remember the last rookie that was in the All-Star game. I believe it was Blake. Yeah. I believe Blake was the last rookie who was in the All-Star game. Because it's very hard to do. It's very rare when you're a rookie in the All-Star game.
This is true.
So yeah, no, I don't think he's gonna be there.
Okay.
I believe it'll be interesting though to see like who will be picked up. Like say, because I believe LeBron's gonna be one of the captains.
I can see LeBron. For some reason, my two captains are probably, and it's not even based. I'm not gonna base it solely on the picture. If it's LeBron and Durant, that would be interesting, but it would be even more interesting if it's, say, Durant and Steph, which I doubt, because Steph is. I don't see Steph getting that many votes.
Well, Steph won it last year, so okay. So I could see. I believe it's gonna be like LeBron and KD or like LeBron and Steph. Okay. That's what I think is gonna be. That's what I think is gonna happen.
So that will then draw to my next question: do you think if LeBron and Steph are put in that position, do you think LeBron intentionally doesn't pick up Kyrie?
Yeah, I don't think LeBron's gonna pick up Kyrie. And with Steph, he's gonna try to pick his own like teammates. Right. Like, he's already said that like if one of his teammates is available, he's like gonna pick up his teammate.
Oh yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, but it's gonna be interesting to see if also like say KD and Russ end up on the same team.
Yeah, how that all will go out. And I mean, so to be fair, and I guess now it kind of was not as big of a thing in last year's All-Star game, even though they threw the alley and it was like, oh, they chemistry. I was like, okay. It was there, but on the same token, it really wasn't a huge ordeal strictly because the media, I feel like the media made more of that story than what it was. I think it was more so they just really didn't talk to each other. And like in Russ' case, Russell Westbrook is all about business. He's all on the court. Off court, he about his family in his hometown. I mean, his home life. So he don't get it. He not as trapped as hoop. In a bunch of hoopla or whatever. So I don't know. Like I said, I feel like it's going to be a fun run to see how it all goes down and plays out.
I also want to see if they do the picks like on TV as well too. So like there'll be that awkward moment when the last person there is being chosen.
Yeah, like if they're all standing there. Yeah, I think it would be interesting if they had them in like an actual facility. Like if it was at LA, it would be cool.
Imagine for those players when the last time they were like the last pick.
Yeah, like, how would that feel like? And then you sitting there and or even the only thing worse than being the last pick is being second to last pick, and you're standing there with the person who's the last pick, and y'all looking at each other like, so this is it, just us? Okay, wherever we go is how we're gonna play. But I mean, all I hope this year, and this is probably my one random request, is that Damian Lillard actually makes the All-Star team this year. Because he's been snubbed quite a bit.
I hope it's competitive, and I don't know if he's been snubbed, because if he's snubbed, he had to take somebody out of the All-Star game.
This is true.
The West is stacked. That's why they shouldn't make it to like it's for like East and West.
Yeah.
However, if they didn't do that, it would really show how like the East is how bad the East truly is.
Yeah.
Because who would make it into the All-Star game? It'd probably be like LeBron.
If you left it strictly East, yeah, you'd have Giannis, you have LeBron, you'd have Kyrie. I don't know. You don't see Kyrie making it?
I don't know. In the West, there's a lot of players.
Yeah, because then you're looking at leaving off players like John Wall. Like it's tough. There's
a lot of guards in the West.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very
Steph,
true.
Like Harden,
yeah.
CP3, Damian Lillard, as you said before. Like there's a lot of guards out West.
And then Paul George going over to the West, that's gonna
Anthony also going to the West. Yeah. Jimmy Butler also going to the West.
Yeah, that's true, because I mean, it ain't like we can say Zach LaVine, come on, let's go, give us a chance. Now I'll talk about this briefly before we go into the next topic. They have been showing a couple of preseason games for the NBA. Of course, Cleveland's been playing. We haven't seen LeBron yet, but it has looked good. We've seeing Dwayne Wade it's different, him being in another uniform. Mm-hmm. It's kind of ironic because he played for Chicago before, and then Rose played for Chicago before, and now they're both on the same team together. Looking at all that chemistry, I mean, looking at that and just looking at teams coming together. Preseason has been just kind of like a pass to the mill, because I mean they play like about 4 or 5 games, so I think it's 5 games, and I don't really get too much in the preseason because it's like, all right, this is trying to kind of give you a flash of what may be coming. But once once Boston and Cleveland plays, I think that's when it's all going to really just kind of get started, and we'll see what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, they've shortened preseason by a week, so they can extend the regular season by a week, which I like. So now the regular season will be here sooner. Yeah. October 17th. Yeah. And I just can't wait for the Cleveland and the Celtics game. Mm-hmm. Right now, for preseason, it's nice to see, like say, like rookies, or say like someone who hasn't played before, like Ben Simmons. Mm-hmm. See them play and how they look with other NBA caliber players out there. Yes,
I'm glad you said, and it's funny you mentioned Simmons, because Simmons actually looks better than I expected.
He does to a degree, and also like he also looks like a rookie as well too, in the fact that he needs to like develop a shot more.
Oh yeah, he definitely
like passing, feel, and IQ, rebounding, and all those natures, and it looks like he actually wants to defend as well too. Yeah, and put some effort in on that side of the ball. Definitely looks like he's going to be a promising player.
I saw too that Tatum, I don't know, maybe it's just me, I feel like Tatum gained weight.
I think he's always been a little bit. He's had some. He's had a good frame, NBA body as well.
But I really didn't like. I guess in Duke you really didn't notice it, but now since he got like in Boston, I'm like, okay, Tatum got a little.
I think gained a little bit, but he was always pretty. He was never like Brandon Ingram size.
Oh yeah,
he's never like that size. And talking about the Lakers, there was I forget who was Richard Sherman. He had a tweet about the Lakers the other day because Kuzma, Chris Kuzma, I believe that's his first name. The last game against the Nuggets, I believe he had like 27 points against them, and Richard Sherman had a tweet saying Kuzma looks like the player that the Lakers wanted Brandon Ingram to be. Ooh. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, throwing shots over here, like.
But I mean, I feel like hopefully this year, I think Ingram will get a little bit of relaxation, but also he gets a chance of, all right, now you got the green light. There's no D'Angelo Russell. There's no Nick Young. There's not as much ball dominance on the team. So it's now your time to get out here and try to get something done. But just like you said, he got to be able to at least hold it, hold his weight and hold himself, to his own standard. Speaking of standards, so normally LeVar is always at the end of our podcast, but oddly enough, we have him early in this one strictly because LaMelo has decided to take his talents to his home and continue the remainder of his high school career being homeschooled. I don't really think I'm not gonna say that I don't have an issue with homeschooling. Let me state that first and foremost, because I know a couple of people who I actually know someone who she homeschools her kids, which, if you can do it, no problem. His reasoning in doing this is strictly to see, everyone's giving speculation as to why they believe it's being done. One thing that was said was, well, he's doing it so that he can give the team time to give the NBA time to see if they're going to change the rule as far as the one and done. But I don't really.
Well, he's actually came out and said it. It was to Ramona Shelburne, where he said why he kind of went after the coaching staff. A quote from him that's in the article was "I'm not dealing with the coach over there. I'm not dealing with administration over there. I don't want no distractions on Melo. So therefore, I'm going to homeschool him and make him the best basketball player ever."
Yeah.
He just doesn't like the administration over there. They actually had just changed coaches recently, and he was saying that they were that the coach was kind of targeting players who played for his travel ball team.
Yeah, for baller rank, big baller rank.
Yeah, so he was asking players about that. So he was and they didn't want him to be involved at all, and LeVar likes to be involved.
Yeah.
So he said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take him out of there. He's already been to school, so it's not like it's not hurt him socially, you could say. He's still gonna, you know what I mean? He can still interact with people. That's I feel like that's a very important part of school, is the social interaction between people.
Right.
Because he can still learn from at home as well, too. That happened with Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
He was taken out, he did homeschooling as well, too, and he's turned out to be a great
baseball
player.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if LaMelo maybe had a voice in this or not. It doesn't sound like he did. Sometimes it seems like LeVar kind of tells them what to do, and that's the be all. At the end of the day, he is the father. So
he is. A lot of things. So if I go back and look at this story and I can remember it all happening, because you can kind of see the timeline kind of play itself out. If you look at Lonzo's senior year, the coach who was there was a pretty good coach. That was the year they went undefeated.
Yep.
They won, obviously they won the states. They won. It was a couple of championships they won in that time period. Lonzo goes to UCLA. The coach went to another school. I can't remember what school it was, but it was another school in California, because I remember them showing highlights from other games and him being on the sideline. So you get this new coach coming in. LaMelo and LiAngelo are there, and LaMelo still was going off, LaMelo was getting a good amount of shots, but LiAngelo was shooting pretty heavy, and a lot of people didn't talk about it or address it. So you get to the end of the season, they didn't win the states. They really didn't have they had a decent run against a couple of teams. You could tell they were starting to get exposed when they played Oak Hill. And I remember when they played Oak Hill, because I remember seeing the video and the highlights for that game. You fast forward a little bit more. Obviously, LiAngelo is going off to UCLA. LaMelo's working on summer league, summer AAU camp. So he's going to multiple camps, camp after camp after camp. Around the time once he got to that matchup of him and Zion playing, and it was so interesting because nobody thought about the fact that nobody on the team, on Big Baller Brand's team, was even close to the size of Zion Williams. Yeah. But it was for whatever reason, they still stayed in that game as close as they could. Zion now, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he's the number one recruit out of this. He's not anymore.
Number two. Okay. RJ Barrett's number one.
Okay, that's right, RJ Barrett. Because he's RJ Barrett. Did he commit yet?
No, he has not committed.
Okay, and so they're both in that non-commit stage. But you got Zion and LaMelo going against each other, and obviously it was Zion. Zion just kind of dominated that game. LaMelo, kind of went and did what he could, and then a couple weeks later, the Melo 2s did, the LO2s or whatever they call them. Mm-hmm. He brought his shoes out. and then it was, I'm giving this timeline and giving a story like that because it's kind of tying into what you said earlier. A lot of what LeVar is doing, LeVar is trying to get them in the mindset in the state of getting branding under control. I have no problem with that. The problem for me comes in where you're doing it with someone who's not ready. And I think LaMelo wants to go, I think LaMelo wants to be a basketball player, and I think he's going to be a decent basketball player wherever he goes, whatever he does. But I think it's going to be a tough road for him as long as it's being done in a discomforting manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely unorthodox in the manner that they're going about this.
Right.
Generally, it's harder to make it to the NBA for a U.S. born player if they don't go to college.
Right.
Say they go overseas or something of that nature, or sit out a year.
Mm-hmm.
They generally get drafted a lot later than they would have before, and they don't have as good of a career. Brandon Jennings was supposed to have a better career than he actually did, and he was ranked near the top for his class. Terrence Ferguson was supposed to be go higher as well too. His jury's still out there.
Yeah.
But there have been other players as well too.
Yeah.
So hopefully this doesn't affect his eligibility. Well, the shoes don't affect his eligibility.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it all turns out for him. Some people are calling LeVar Ball the worst sports father ever. And I would just disagree with that just because
that's a reach.
He's still there for his kids, and he's still trying to help them make it somewhere. There have been fathers who haven't even been there for their children at all, and those would be technically the worst fathers when they're not there for them. So
that's true. And to piggyback off of that, I totally agree. I think LeVar is just he's the father that he pushes them to be at their best, to go all out. I think when a lot of people misinterpreted the statement he made about LiAngelo as far as I think it was, I'm paraphrasing, that he wouldn't make it to the NBA or he doesn't think he's going to be as good of a ball player or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, LiAngelo, if you look at it, LiAngelo is right now in the place of, I'm going to earn, I'm going to utilize the scholarship that I have for UCLA. And if I'm going to the draft, I go to the draft. Do I see him leaving in 1 year? Honestly, no. But on the same token, he's at a school where if he doesn't leave after his first year, hell, if he doesn't leave after his third year, he'll still get the green light on playing his game. The tough part, the interesting part of it is you won't hear talk about him as heavily as you talk about Lonzo or Melo, because Melo's going to, if you look at it now, you're looking at 2 years. So you have this year where he would go through homeschooling, and then next year, it's not like he's looking at any other schools. He already has his school made up. He's going to UCLA. He's already verbally committed. It's just a matter of having a written commit. And once that time comes, if the NBA, some miraculous reason, decides they want to change the one and done rule, then cool, they'll change it. He goes pro. Or if he decides that, the only thing that I look at in reality, and just like you mentioned, him going overseas is not going to help his draft stock. If that's what they're looking at this plan as being for.
Yeah, I don't believe he will go overseas. I believe that they would just train him here. So we'll have to wait to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's all we mainly can kind of do is just sit and relax and see what the next options are for him as far as being a at-home basketball player. So this is our segue from sports. So stuff is going to be simple and it's going to be emotional. I will tell you all in advance, a portion of this may be graphic. So if anyone has any children or if you have a sensitive ear towards certain topics, I don't mind if you don't tune in for a while and then come back probably another 20 or 30 or skip through the podcast. But we definitely want to address these topics because they are what's going on in the news. So we have one topic before the graphical or detailed story. Or one in a possible. But Google did their keynote last week, and Dimitri already gave me lead, so there's no passing involved for me with this one. Google decided, as timing goes, I want to make sure I had the timeline correct. I believe I'd either say July, maybe August. Samsung made their announcement, did their presentation. Apple did their presentation in late August, early September. And here it is October, and Google did their announcements. As with anything, what everyone was waiting for was the phone. They told you about the phone, but they really didn't. They waited until the right time to address the phone. They brought out their version of the Beat. I want to say Beats, but they brought out a pair of headphones that a lot of people think they're going to like. They're going to be implementing their, the voice activated feature as far as like, it's not Siri, but Android's kind of like hello if asking for Google Assistant. Google Home, they've brought out a smaller, to me it's like it's the Amazon Echo Dot, but it's Google's version of it, and it's got a different look and a different feel to it, but it does the exact same thing. As I mentioned last week, Amazon did their presentation about trying to target towards smart homes. Google is going that same avenue. They brought out one of their larger speakers. We talked about it a couple of months ago with Apple with their speaker. So everyone's now into the let's bring out Bluetooth speakers that target towards the home. And they're making it beneficial. So if you have multiple speakers in your home, it's kind of like they all can talk to each other. So that feature I'm all for. They're stating that the new phone, the Google Pixel 2 has a better camera than the iPhone and the Galaxy. I can see that. Google, so this is where techies who are Android or Apple fanboys have to like take off that fanboy hat and just look at reality. Google knows their focus and their target. I don't know why to make focus and target one word, but they know their focus and target. If you look at Android is about simplicity. They're about the user. They're about streamline, things of that sort. Apple, whether people realize it or not, everyone who has an Apple or anyone who tries to join the bandwagon fail to realize Apple has always been known for doing their music and their graphics, not pictures. Devices are able to take good pictures, no problem. I was not ready. I was like, where did music come from? You good. So music, as far as music coming into play, okay, the music. I was like, I got caught off guard for a second.
Apologize for that.
Oh no, you good. It's straight. That's the joy of podcasting. Is it? Anyone who knows me, if you ever go back and listen to old episodes, I joke about it all the time. With me doing a podcast and having somebody sneezing in the background and asking for a t-shirt. So if you ever if you want to ask any of my friends, they'll tell you about that one. But as far as the Pixel 2, they're making it so that, okay, if you want to take photos, take photos. The advantage is the more photos you take, you don't have an issue with storage because their Google Photos feature, you have unlimited storage. So you can store as many pictures as you want in their Google Cloud.
That's good for some people who take a lot of
selfies.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, and this is where Techie 101 hits for a lot of people. Whenever I have an issue with storing photos, it doesn't matter what device you have, Android, Google, iPhone, whatever. If you like say, hey, I want to put stuff in the cloud, and you're like, oh, I don't have enough storage in my cloud, I cut off photos and I put photos in. I have a Google Photos account and I just put my photos there and I sync it up. So that way I can go back and look at photos from years ago that I've always kept track of and just are able and am able to access. So, I mean, those were a couple of features that they brought out. They did bring out and I'm sitting here looking at it, forgot all about it. The new laptop they're bringing out for Chromebook is trying to compete with Microsoft Surface. They're bringing out the similar feature where you can flip have the screen be backwards, where it can double as a laptop, everyday laptop with keyboard. You can, like I said, flip it in full form, and you can have it as a tablet to be able to do designing and things of that sort. Okay. They did go ahead and they presented that they are planning to bring out a revamped VR headset. And like I said, on the link that I have for Engadget, it's pretty much a simple 15-minute video that tells everything that they talked about in a more broad horizon. Like as far as putting out specs and details, it's stuff when it comes out. Like I tell people all the time, wait till the first wave of faulty devices come out, because a lot of people I've had people ask me personally, which I found to be funny. Am I planning on buying an iPhone X? And I'm like, I don't see a reason. I think the iPhone X is a great device, but it doesn't have like that wow factor to me that I need to buy it. So that's kind of why I just is sitting on the shelf and won't be in my possession. Although, and this is a random segue, the Super Nintendo brought out its mini device. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's a hard time. I'm having a difficulty finding it." If you go on Amazon, I don't have the exact link. I may look it up and share it in the show notes. Amazon has a deal. Now you're probably gonna pay about $200 because it's like it's up to $200. But you'll pay for the device, and you have to make sure it's from a proper seller who has it, and they'll be able to sell you the device. And if you get it through Amazon Prime, you should receive it by next week. So I think that's a good deal because most people who've been trying to find anytime new devices come out like those. Like I can tell you right now, I wouldn't go on eBay right now to even try to look, but I guarantee if I was to look just to see, hey, let me see if they got any iPhone X's out there.
Be a high dollar.
And they'll be in the high, like, because mind you, the device, the iPhone X supposed to be $1,000. People probably selling it for $2,000 or $3,000. But then just like with this NES, the classic Super NES, it's probably people selling it for like $700 or $800. So like this is a $60, $70 device by boosting the prices. But that's the joy of the tech world.
Yeah, supply and demand.
Supply and demand. And it's always segue with terms, but supply and demand was no exception. We talked about it a little bit a while back as far as with Puerto Rico. Their death toll has increased even more. It has gone up to 34 nearly 2 weeks after the storm, based on everything that's going on with Hurricane Maria. The governor did state that they've been slow. There's been tough. It's been a challenge of an ability to get help with getting assistance there for this circumstance. One of the biggest things that was addressed is a lot of people are without power. People, are worried about their safety, public safety, things of that sort. Trump finally decided to make a cameo appearance. So political 101, warning, not going to go too detailed with it. But we are showing why, as most people who have termed it, why number 45 has been doing a great job at what he does. He's trying to be participatory, but doesn't know how.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes he just doesn't use great words when he's trying to describe something, and he's kind of a showman as well too, like an entertainer.
Yeah.
So sometimes that doesn't work in tough situations, like for natural disaster.
Yeah.
You definitely want to be there for people in need, especially when they're fellow Americans as well too. When we're talking about respecting the flag and standing up for the flag,
right?
With that included, you want to standing up for the flag means helping everybody who's like behind that flag as well too. So every American you want to help out.
Right.
It took us longer than it should have taken us to help out Puerto Rico. They still have a lot of people without, as you said, without power.
Yeah.
And half the island, I believe it was like half the island, they can't even reach drinkable water still. Right. So yeah, they're still struggling out there as well too. They're trying to fill out like FEMA applications and things of nature. However, it's kind of hard when you don't have power, so you can't submit it online or anything of that nature. Exactly. So you can submit it like the paper applications and things of that nature. They've got, it says like 70% of the supermarkets and 76% of the gas stations are now operational. So it's getting better. Right. And now 43% of the island has telecommunications now. Yeah. So they're working towards it. However, it's going to take a lot longer. Yep. They're saying that in roughly, they said in a month from now, there should probably be like 75% without power. Right now, it's 91% they don't have power. So they're still struggling down there. Yeah.
So if you're able to give any help or anything that can provide, if you don't, I'm gonna say it like this because I think sometimes we always look at it as when someone's asking for donations or need help, we always go to, oh, they need money. Let's just send money, and it's like that's gonna resolve everything. You don't have to send money. A lot of times, you can always give back and provide through actual items, clothing. Send if you want to. Literally, like we sit here, y'all. You hear us. We on podcasts. We always drink water. If you want to send cases of water down to people to them to help out, That will help out too.
Yeah, I actually saw like a clip or a video of people up in New York. I believe they're like in the Bronx or something of that nature, and they were like filling up trucks. Like a neighborhood was all filling up trucks and things of that nature.
Yeah.
To send stuff to send down to Puerto Rico,
right? Just
to help out with that, and also to send to Mexico as well too, since they had their earthquake as well too. So they're dealing with a lot of a high death toll down there as well too.
Yeah. So if you're able to do anything that can help out in that with what's going on there, and I'm saying circumstance situation, I'm not like mildly putting it off to the side, because this is like a serious situation or a serious incident that did occur. Any help will definitely benefit. I'm not gonna give, like I said, I want to give the story its attention. Like I said, I have the link that's in the show notes will address it,
and also to include onto that too. Like we shouldn't like determine how bad the hurricane was or how bad the damages were just by what the death total is at this moment.
Yes,
because they're still struggling down there, and people can still indirectly die from the hurricane. Meaning, like they can still die from dehydration, from not being able to get to drink water, or things of that nature, like panic attacks,
right?
Because of like what they're still going through.
Yeah, to tie into what you said earlier, Trump kind of made like you said, it was a bad term. He was comparing this hurricane to Katrina when it affected those who were in New Orleans, and you think of it as, yes, New Orleans was a very impacted situation, and New Orleans was able to come back, and it took years, but they got back. But even with Puerto Rico being able to come back, they still would have to have help to be able to get that. And I'm not saying, I'm not sitting here saying, pointing the finger like, Trump, you need to go out and do what you need to do. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm also looking at it as, if you're going to be the face or the representation of the brand, as we call it, for the United States, that's not really a good job of doing it and making comments or references with such.
Yeah, because we definitely did rush to help Houston when Hurricane Harvey came through. Mm-hmm. We definitely rushed to help Florida when Irma came through. Yeah. So we definitely just want to be there and help in any situation when this does happen to people, to Americans,
Yeah. So I don't really know how to go about addressing this next story because it was very unexpected. So I'm gonna give my personal timeline of what happened from what I perceived. Well, I'm not gonna say perceived, but how it all kind of played out when I was kind of just going through my normal day. So Sunday night, I was watching, because usually I'm always watching different streamers on Twitch or whatever. One of the streamers who I watch, I'm not going to state any names because it's not really a benefit to the story, but he was streaming as normal, and his story broke. And I'm thinking about it, I'm hearing about it, I'm like, okay, no big deal. But then the story got more attention, and he mainly was addressing that story the entire night while watching the stream. There are a lot of people are trying to put more stories behind what they think happened instead of saying, look, let's just go over and acknowledge what actually occurred. 59 people passed, including the gunman, Stephen Paddock, who was 64 years old. They considered to be one of the deadliest mass shootings in history of the U.S. There were multiple people who were and are still injured in Las Vegas. Mainly, there was a concert going on, and in the midst of the concert, an individual opened fire. And their story, this is going back to what I mentioned just now. There were stories that were addressed saying, how was he able to get this much weaponry into a hotel? How was there, they had security cameras. Why was none of those are questions that we can't sit and do Q&As and figuring out.
And yeah, and also, so like with getting into the hotel too, like a lot of the guns that he did have there as well too, like you were able to break them down as well too.
Right.
And he probably did have a lot of like luggage, you could say, and like he took multiple trips because they did say there were 23 guns inside, weapons inside the 2 rooms that he had, as well as a pistol as well too. And he made customizations to them as well too.
Right.
To add bump stock on there as well too, to make them fully automatic as well.
Yeah.
It definitely was a tragedy of what happened there.
Oh yeah.
Because he opened fire on 22,000 concert goers that night. A lot of them, when this first did happen, they thought it was like, say, fireworks. They weren't really believing that these were gunshots that were going down.
Exactly.
Until once they started to see some of the bodies start to drop, which is definitely it's unfortunate. As of right now, they haven't found a clear motive as to why he actually did it. A lot of these people who do that, they try to, I guess you could say, like, go out with, you could say, fame or something of that nature, like when they like be infamous.
Yeah.
Which is definitely sad. He had a lot of cameras around the hotel, around like his room as well too.
He was planning out this. He looked like he had a plan put in place of trying to like process how this was all going to be done from what was mentioned as the story unfolded.
And there was a lot of you could say heroics that happened throughout this whole night, where people made heroic acts to try to save others.
Yeah.
Like there was an there was a veteran there that jumped inside a truck to cover some people, or to take people actually to the hospital. And there was a security guard who actually found the gunman in his hotel. Yeah. He actually got shot as well too, but he was actually able to give the police the correct location.
Yeah,
and give them the key so they can get into the hotel.
Yeah, and the tough part about it was it luckily was able to be stopped before it could have gotten worse. And I know that's like not really the best terming of saying that, but it's tough to see things of this nature occur. And then it kind of the first thing that's addressed when you look at something of this sort is if an individual, like the weaponry that he had, an everyday person wouldn't even carry around. Like most people who have concealed weapons don't even carry halfway anything close to what he was carrying. So that tells you a lot too.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of conversation now with, so you could say in politics recently, about you could say gun laws, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Some people are saying that now is not a good time to bring up gun laws.
Right.
Some people are saying that you guys are using what happened, this massacre, as a way to go about gun laws now, when that's not really the case. Back in 2012, I believe it was, Obama had came out about, there was a massacre that happened back in 2012. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember. I forget where it was at.
Okay.
But he had came out and he had talked about it as well too, and said it's like a time for a change. Like, and he came out and gave a heartfelt speech about it and said, like, if we don't do anything about it, then this is just going to allow it to continue to happen, and this will happen again. Pretty much is what he said, and it did end up happening again. So
yeah,
it's not. So this just brings it back to the tension of maybe there should be some gun laws. It's not going to prevent it. Some people would say that wouldn't prevent it from happening again. Mm-hmm. However, you would at least feel like you did your due diligence of like looking into it, at least starting that conversation about it.
Yeah.
To see what you can do about it.
Yeah, that's true. And the 2012 incident actually, which was at that time one of the most mass shootings, was at the movie theater in Colorado. So that again tied into a similar situation. His setup was it was mental, but still it didn't justify those people who were just having an everyday moment of, like, at that time, a lot of people were, after it happened, a lot of people were paranoid, like, I'm not going to the movies. Why do I want to go to the movies?
And that's where, like, say, like, background checks would probably help out with that as well, too. Maybe someone that, in that situation shouldn't have been able to access again.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I know I use the term people very loosely, but that's something that's being addressed and looked at as well, is giving someone the access or the ability to have something of that sort, or have that form of weaponry, then causes you to wonder, truly question, like you said, background checks should be done, and we should make sure that no one can just because this is going to go very left field, but luckily this is a podcast. We do that sometimes. If you think about folks who, let's say you were a convicted felon, or you've had a background or history or whatever, rap sheet, and you went out and you've done X, Y, and Z, and you come out and you are an everyday person. Those people, if they want to find a way to get a gun, they can. The tough part becomes those people doing the incident, it comes out as a challenge alone. But then even with this person, like they even talked, they brought up, when incidents like this occur, we end up getting a backstory and a history of this person in like a couple of days, and we learn who they were, who their wife was, who their girlfriend was, who their kids were, and we're like, who and why are we, just going back to what you said, this all of a sudden they get this attention. And it's not fair, because now here it is, you have individuals who are without family members because of something that he did, and not considering like how everyone was involved with that. So hopefully it shouldn't take incidents like this for us to, I'm not gonna use the term stay woke because I hate it. It shouldn't take incidents like this for us to really come out of our shell and like come to grips with what's really going on around us. But for whatever reason it always does, and it almost is starting to get old. Yeah. So hopefully this could be the deciding factor. But then it's almost ironic because, spinning it back to sports, these are the incidents and these are the moments and the things that go on that Kaepernick is fighting for, even though this is on a different level, because it's all about gun control and people doing things and not handling situations the right way.
Yeah, definitely. This happens too much for this, like, there not to be a conversation about, like, what can we do to change this?
Yeah.
There have been too many acts of, like, you could say, domestic terrorism in the United States. So we definitely there should be a conversation started about it.
Yeah, that's true. So before we get into, I don't know if I want to call it assets of the week, ass of the week, and idiot of the week. I will say that a lot of people, and I always forget because there's so many things that happen in October that I'm just kind of like, it's just in go mode. I did talk about this last week, and I've tried to make sure I address this within podcast. October, as many of you may or may not know, is for me, I always look at it as Domestic Awareness Month or Domestic Violence Awareness. It is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And one of my friends who I've known for a while, she brought it to and I always know because I've known her long enough where I should not forget. But it's also Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. And also it is, if I mess up this one, I'm going to get fired. Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. So these are all things that are going on within our lives or within the community that if you're able to find a way to give back or to be a part of what's going on, definitely get out there and, help out or chip in, and don't ignore what's going on around you. Just like we talked about the various instances and things that are going on now, like in our current stories, I want to make sure that these are brought to everyone's attention as well. But yeah, Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. If I said it, I'm thinking I said it correctly. I just want to make sure. But I actually have people who I personally know that have experienced or are experiencing each form of those awarenesses that are going on. So now, all right. And I'm sorry, this story hit as like a late breaking news. I ain't even say late breaking news. This like hit my feed this morning, and I'm not gonna really give much attention to it. But they gave the story about Nelly getting locked up because, matter of fact, let me rewind because I'm not a tabloid podcast, so we're not gonna talk about that story. We're gonna talk about Louisville and their logical ignorance involved, because we were going to talk about the story last week. I made a valid attempt of talking about it as far as the coaches, multiple coaches who were involved between Adidas and Nike and major, as far as being, being at summer leagues and being part of camps, AAU camps and stuff like that, and giving kids money and giving colleges being part of knowing that this money was going around.
And also, it wasn't just colleges and players. It was also representatives from shoe organizations as well, too. Like, say, Adidas was involved in it as well, too. And they were also one of the ones incorporated in getting a player to go to Louisville, player number 10.
Player number 10.
Which is determined to be Brian Bowen.
Brian Bowen, yeah.
Just due to the fact of, in there it says player 10, and it says he committed in June, and it was an All-American. And there's only one All-American that committed in June, so they know it was him. So since then, he's actually been suspended indefinitely.
Yep.
He's actually tried to get a lawyer to try to get reinstated.
Good luck.
I doubt it's going to happen because they state that Adidas funneled $100,000 to his family.
Yeah.
In efforts to steer him to Louisville. And you actually made a great point earlier of his whole recruiting trail and from where it started to where it finished. Yeah. If you'd like to go ahead and
So I found a video on YouTube because I'm always in that 2% of YouTube, and then it's kind of like I want to understand like what happened, because when they showed the All-American game, he was on All-American game. He was playing. I'm like, okay, he's gonna be pretty much a good star. He's gonna be at Louisville. Go put in work, no problem. Before he committed to Louisville, normally kids are looking at, hey, I want to look at these schools, and these are the schools that are in my window that I'm possibly interested in. There were 10 schools.
And I usually post it like on Instagram or Twitter.
Right. And I'm not sure if it was on his page or not, but I know he had a list of all the schools he was looking at one point. All of the schools he had Michigan State, Kansas, Arizona. Yep. All of those schools were listed, but Louisville was not one of the schools. So I'm saying, okay, so out of the schools he had, one of those schools he'll probably go to. So then they came back and they said, now he's cutting his list down even more. He's got it down to 5 schools. So he had his 5 schools listed. Louisville still was not one of the schools that he had listed as a choice. So when the commitment option came up and all of a sudden it's like, I'm deciding to go to Louisville, and since we're in the social media era, everything is all publicized. So you see him with, we got it. And if you go to the podcast page, I actually got a picture of him in the Louisville jersey, like, yes, I'm with the Louisville Go Cards, whatever. It was, you thinking, okay, it shouldn't be a big deal. And they're saying in the report, and they use the term, and it's kind of like it's like using terms without using terms. They referred, I'm assuming they're referring to Pitino as Coach 2.
Yes.
Because they had that listed as well, and as I talked about last week, Pitino was suspended indefinitely. There's even possibility. I know you mentioned this too when we were talking about it off air, about him possibly going into the school could get the death. Not what do you call it?
He ended up actually getting fired since then, and yeah, it's a possibility that they get the death penalty.
Yeah,
that's what SMU got back in the day with their football program. They got the death penalty for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible that they get the death penalty and possibly also kicked out of the ACC because they just joined the ACC recently.
And this is
the second incident that's happened since. That came out since they joined the ACC.
Yeah.
The one earlier was with the made graphic here.
Yeah.
With the with the sex scandal that they had there, offering up sex for recruits
to come.
Yeah, to come there. Now they have this where they're offering players money. So it's definitely going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them with their recruiting. I believe a couple people have already decommitted from Louisville, and most players have actually stopped looking at the schools that have been included in the FBI investigation, which was also USC and also Arizona. Those two schools that have been hurt a lot as well too.
Auburn.
Sharif O'Neal, we were talking about earlier, was he's possibly going to decommit from Arizona just due to the fact of what's happened there.
Yeah.
And one of his friends, Bobo, son of Manute Bol, the top 3 player in the nation, he was considering USC and Arizona as his top 2. Right. Now both of those are off of his list as well too.
Yeah, we've known for years about the problem. I ain't gonna say the problem, but the consistency that USC has always had involving like finances. I mean, if we go back to OJ Mayo, Reggie Bush,
with in general with college, it's definitely you could say like hypocritical just because they make so much money off of these players. And then they tell these players not to make any money. Oh, they're getting paid for school. Well, yeah, they're getting paid for school. Like, you guys want them there to make billions of dollars for you. You can't even pay them a couple of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're paying for their schooling, but
they
deserve more than just their schooling being paid for. And they can't accept anything else. Their families aren't being taken care of or anything of that nature.
Right.
So, of course, this is gonna happen. Do you think this is gonna clean up college basketball at all?
I think it's gonna expose college basketball. Cleaning college basketball is challenging because if you look at it, this has been going on. It's been going on over 20 years. If you go back to,
I think even longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, it started to get more. So I'm sorry, it's gotten more attention in at least 20, 25 years. Yeah. If you go back as far as like the Michigan story with the Fab Five, it's so this. All right, this story I like. Not even because of what happened with him, just looking at college basketball as a whole. because, and this is also with college sports, because they talked about this with, because I had a conversation with someone, and it sparked a very interesting conversation, because it's looked at as, if you're at a school and you're being paid, your school is being paid for to participate in whatever activity you're doing for them, you're not allowed to get any extra money from them. I think it was earlier this year, there was a kicker, I want to say it was UCF, I'm not sure, but he was playing for the team, and they found out he had a YouTube channel. YouTube channel makes money, he's kicked off the team.
I don't believe he was a kicker. I believe he played on the UCF team, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got kicked off the team because they wanted him to take down all his videos showing him like playing football. Mm-hmm. They said, you can have a YouTube channel, you just can't have anything showing football on there. And he was like, that's like my YouTube channel, that's how I make money, and I send it back to my family. Right. And then he ended up losing his scholarship for that, like losing his eligibility for that.
Right. And then you tie it into what we talked about a couple of stories ago. LaMelo making the shoe, if the money comes in, where does the money disperse? If it disperses to him directly, how does his eligibility work out? I feel like they're not going to do that for court if they're smart, but
I think he's still going to be in trouble with that, because I was just watching something and I saw like Angelo saying that he couldn't support Big Baller Brand because as a college athlete you can't endorse or tell people to buy something.
This is true.
And so if his name's behind it, it's kind of like he's telling people to buy that product.
Yeah.
So at that point, I believe that may be his eligibility. Okay. But time will tell with that.
Because so that causes me to want. So that would almost be as if saying we're doing a hypothetical. If LiAngelo is on campus and he wears the apparel, he can wear the apparel. That's fine. But he can't state to people, "Hey, go to this website and buy the apparel."
Yeah.
Okay. It's tough. The toughest part about that is trying to not hide it, but then when we tie it back to what we're talking about now, so this is the other part of it, and this is what I think we always look at as fans, and it's tough because it's not acknowledged. A player plays for a team, you getting 3 meals, you getting room and board, you get to play basketball or football, and any other stuff that you're trying to do outside of that, it just happens as is. But then I always think about, it's little stuff that I always look at and I notice that we sometimes don't realize, such as with college football, when players come in, let's say they come in and they're pregame, and you see them with their headphones on. I'm like, did the school give you those headphones? Did you? Because unless you got that kind of money sitting around to get about $400 headphones, I don't know. Because I always thought, like, even with who was it? So North Carolina won the championship this year. Now, only reason I think this one is a little different is because they're sponsored by, Jordan is their brand. So Jordan gave them, like, they all got custom Jordans on the team. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, these are gifts, but the difference is they're in school, so it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, with that, it's a little bit different. I don't know how the rules work with that. I remember hearing a rule about, like, say, like, I'm using Kentucky, for example. Mm-hmm. I know that their basketball program brings in a lot of money, right? So, like, their locker room and stuff like that looks like professional locker rooms. Yeah. And their dorms for their players, their dorms are very...
high class.
Yeah, they're very high class. However, to make it so that it's not like they're getting extra benefits, there has to be a certain amount of regular students inside that dorm included with them. Mm-hmm. So that may be included with the, say, like the headphones or something like that too, where a certain amount of students have to get it as well too. Like,
okay, and then you got school boosters too. So I always had to remember that as well, because boosters is a little separate.
That's tricky as well too, because they can't funnel money to players also. This is because that would be included as, say, like bribery or something of that nature in there as well too. It's a very touchy subject with the NCAA. They want to make money, but they don't want the players to make money. So.
Because I know at one point they talked about it, and I'm not sure if it carried over or what the end result became of it, but they were looking at possibly doing like a stipend or having some type of money that the kids would get while they were in school to be able to, buy, like, well, I ain't gonna say buy, but have like a little bit of money on the side if they want to get extra things outside.
I haven't heard anything about them working on that.
Yeah.
They should start working on something with that.
Yeah.
However, the NCAA, I don't even think they don't even have anyone over like that jurisdiction of like trying to monitor that whole situation, which they should.
Yeah.
But they should start looking into that and compensating them, which would take out of it. And they should also make the rule like, say, like for the MLB or the NFL has, where you have to stay Like either you can leave right after high school. Well, NFL doesn't have it, but the MLB does.
Right.
You can leave right after high school, or you can stay at least like 2 years.
Yeah.
Or I believe it was Frank Martin who was saying it's not the NCAA's fault. It's the NBA's fault for this because they're the one who makes that rule. And then he was like, what we should start doing is freshmen can't play their freshman season like how it used to be. Like they have to redshirt.
Yeah.
That's another thing that they could try to do.
And that's possible. I mean, I can see that being done.
I don't know. We'll see what they do. They haven't really made any changes recently. Like in a few years now.
Right. So as of week number 2 is Cam Newton. I'm doing this for 2 reasons. Number 1, his response to what was said during this conversation was very kiddish and childish. And number 2, thanks to him not thinking about what he did, he lost a major sponsor, which to some may not seem like a lot, but losing a sponsor such as Dannon as far as a yogurt company, that's a big deal. So there was a beat writer, Rodriguez, who was doing she was doing her normal beat for after at the press conference, and one of the questions that she asked was about specific players running routes. Now, Cam has been in the league for quite a few years, so he should know that if there are female reporters that are in there asking you questions, this is what they talk about and this is what they deal with on a day-to-day basis as far as knowing sports. It's just it's equivalent to expecting a beat writer who does basketball to know positions in the NBA. If she's a sideline reporter, she knows that if she's talking to LeBron James, he's not a point guard. They know that. They know that naturally by default. So it's not anything that's judged or perceived that should be looked at differently. His response caused so much lack of logic that he's the quarterback for my team, so I gotta stay loyal in some manner, but it was like the timing couldn't have been any worse.
He tried to after the whole situation, I'm not justifying anything that he said. Because what he had said was definitely just straight up just foolish, and it was just ignorant from the start of what he said.
Right.
Because as you said before, reporters should know. I'm not saying that all of them do know, but all of them should know.
Yeah. They
should know what they're reporting on.
Right.
It's just common sense that they should know what they're reporting on.
Mm-hmm.
She asked it pretty, it was kind of like a loft to him. I guess it would have been an easy question to answer, so I don't see why he came up with that. Why he had that response for her.
Yeah.
And he had time to, think about his response to her as well, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because while she was asking the question, and she got, midway through the question, he started to smile a little bit. And I feel like that's the moment when he realized, that's when he had that thought of what he actually said. Yeah. That's when that went through his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he had time to change what he was going to say, but instead he still went out and said it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, what she's saying is afterwards she approached him about it privately, and that he still didn't apologize about it.
Right.
And that's the time when he should have apologized for it.
Yeah.
He waited until a couple days later.
He waited until yesterday.
Yeah.
I think the apology just came out yesterday about it.
Yeah. He waited a few days later and apologized through a video on social media.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely did not make him look good. He lost a sponsor as well too with it.
Yeah.
People then started to bring up her past as well too. Okay. Just because of the comments that she had made on Twitter 4 years ago or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. She talked about her 2 wrongs don't make a right. And she had some comments in her past as well too, which definitely it didn't help. It brought it into spotlight for her. She had a couple racist tweets. They weren't racist tweets, but it was her joking around about her, how her and her friends were talking about making racist jokes. Yeah. During a ride. However, both of them are not right. But what his did, he's 28 years old. He shouldn't be making those comments anymore. Yeah. So his comment was definitely just out of place, and it was just. Because he put women in general. He didn't say a reporter. Yeah. And afterwards, that's what he tried to say. He tried to say reporters generally don't know routes and things of that nature. But that's not what you said. You said woman. It's funny to hear a woman talk about routes, which it was definitely ignorance.
It was bad. It was very bad PR. And what made it ironic to me is here it is 2 years ago. You just had a tantrum.
You got the Super Bowl. You had a decent season. Got to the playoffs. Ran the playoff table pretty well. Got to the Super Bowl. Turned into a big crybaby. You lay the egg. You go to the media press conference, and because you're hearing the Broncos players cheering and excited and giving good answers and talking about what they did well, you're not wanting to be in that light of addressing the fact that your team lost. Not because you didn't have a good game, because your team lost, and we just want to address, hey, what happened? What can be done? So here it is now. Time progresses. You had a bad season last year. You're trying to progress and fix, improve on that. And this season, Carolina could have started off very rough, but I mean, you're getting your key wins. I think they're 2-2.
They're
3-1. 3-1. Okay, so they're 3-1, which I'm still surprised by because I did not expect some of the wins. But hey, it is what it is. And you go into this interview, and it was like you said, it was just a lob. It was just, hey, this is an easy question. This don't require a whole lot of rocket science, a whole lot of logic, just something simple to the point.
Yeah.
And here you are carrying it in a totally different direction. And now you're trying to, you made the comment not knowing because of being in a Twitter based era and some
you're not thinking.
Yeah. I'll bring this up too, and this has nothing to do with Cam, but it's a similar instance. When you're in that star-based position and you have social media in your back pocket, it's a much different process. Like the comparison that I looked at was, think about when LeBron came in the league, or when he was about to come in the league. It was 2003. Twitter was not even a thing at the time. Like, talking about it. It wasn't even close to how it is. Like, social media wasn't even well known. Like, now you're in an era where the minute you say something, it's out there and it's in the masses right away. Random story, but it ties this ties into it, and then I'll finish this up a little bit, and then we'll go into our last ass of the week. A guy was playing. So this weekend there's a tournament going on in Hong Kong. One of the participants was, he has like this whole demeanor when he gets started. And he was going through everything, and he's like, measuring himself, and he's like getting into his peaceful stance. And he's sitting in front of the monitor getting ready to play. Mm-hmm. He breaks out a piece of like a measuring tape and measures himself as to how close he was to the screen. It hadn't even been 5 or 10 minutes. Picture was already online. Memes was already made. Folks was already making a mockery of it. That's how quick the internet is. That's how quick stories get out there. Once he made this comment, it literally was like right after she was sitting there like, I don't think it's funny to be a female and talk about routes. I think it's my job. And it is. That's her job.
Yeah.
The challenge then becomes, like you said, when it turns into archive and history and pointing out what was said before, then you got to look at it as this is where you got to be cordial with your media, because you remember, even if you got one profile, if you're on this profile and you talk reckless or say whatever you say, if you think, oh, I'm clean and spotless and nobody, folks spend time going on Twitter and on social media to find what you said and what you did, whatever amount of months or years ago, just to have a context to have something to talk about. That's why a lot of times I always make it my goal, and I'm not perfect. A lot of times I make sure that when I post things, that nobody can say, yeah, I remember when you posted this like a couple years ago and you were talking about so-and-so and you made, little comments and things of that nature. So I have to remember to humble myself and catch my thoughts as well. Speaking of someone who did not catch thoughts as well, we don't have a tab specifically for him. I don't have an article in front of me, but I can kind of paraphrase. And if you do, that's fine. I'm just going to read and talk because I still don't understand how illogical you can be. But Jeremy Lin decided to sport a new do. And he decided to get some braids. Now, before he got the braids, he kind of sat and thought about it. And, he talked to his teammates, made sure if it was the right decision or if it was the best option. Nobody really gave him a hard time or any flack about it. Everything's fine. Everything should have been cool with it. Shouldn't have been a big deal. Of course, he's playing for the Brooklyn Nets. And then a former Brooklyn Net who was the #1 draft pick who just happened to win the Big 3 championship in his what's left of the end of his prime. Kenyon Martin decides to speak out and give a little bit of feedback and saying that he thinks that Jeremy Lin needs to know his history and know.
Yeah, he basically tried to say that it's cool, man. Like you want to be black, like
right.
Like someone told this man to cut it out, kind of. He said like you want to be black, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Lin he kind of had a respectful, like you could say, clap back at him. Yeah. Saying like, hey man, it's all good. You don't have to like my hair, and definitely entitled to your opinion.
Right.
Actually, I am legit grateful you sharing it. To be honest, at the end of the day, I appreciate that I have dreads and you have Chinese tattoos because I think it's a sign of respect. Right. And I think as minorities, the more we appreciate each other's cultures, the more we influence mainstream society. Mm-hmm. Thanks for everything you did for the Nets and hoops. Had your poster up in my up on my wall growing up.
Yep.
And he also came out. I don't have the quote in front of me, mm-hmm. but he also came out as well too and told like his Asian fans to not post any racist comments on Kenyon Martin's page.
Yeah.
Due to like what Kenyon Martin had said, because there's a lot of people who always come out and will defend or come out and say stuff.
Yep.
And he also took the high road there too and told his fans like, "Hey, don't post those things. Like, there's no need for that, pretty much."
Right. So and then I think it took everything going down for Kenyon Martin then to kind of like, because he went and posted a video and went all to the extreme.
And then, there was an article too that showed that Jeremy Lin actually thought about this process a lot too. He had an article in the NBA players, like they had like a website or something of that nature, mm-hmm. and he came out with an article about how much he thought about it. He asked a lot of people about it. He went on a little search about it to see like what it meant. Yeah. And also at the end of the day, it's hair. Like he can't have a different style of hair. He can't share in the style of hair as well too.
Right.
And the fact that he brought out the tattoos as well too. At that point, he just won the debate right there.
Yeah, the tattoo thing. I'm a huge. A lot of people don't like. So a lot of people look at me and when I tell them I have tattoos, they're like, "You got tattoos?" I'm like, "Yeah." But then I also make sure I'm thinking about what I get as tattoos. Yeah. I stay away from symbols. Except music notes. But that's because I know I play music, so I understand music. But Chinese symbols and Japanese, like getting those terms, you want to make sure you're getting the right thing. He can probably look at them and tell exactly what they mean. But if you somebody that, let's say you go to the wrong person to get a tattoo done, and you get a symbol done incorrectly, and it's misinterpreted, and it becomes global or public or whatever, then there's a problem. Jeremy Lin made a choice. He decided to grow his hair out. If we really look back at Jeremy Lin after the New York trend, he started to go through these phases with hair. Yeah. This is the newest phase. I have no problem with it. I think the problem became Kenyon Martin responding and just not understanding now you have an image, which I'll get into in a second, but go ahead.
No, yeah. Like he definitely just didn't think twice about what he had to say. Yeah. And then Jeremy Lin's very articulate with what he had to say as well too, coming out of Harvard as well too, so he's very well spoken. Oh yeah. And didn't feel the need to like try to attack him back or anything of that nature and have a back and forth. Right. So I feel like he went about it in a respectful way.
Oh yeah. And so with the image part of it that I was just mentioning, because I was sitting here and I sat and I really didn't notice it until I started to see more. I'm always I'm watching all the Ball is Life or the Baller Visions, Hoop Journey. I watch all those videos all the time, and most of those videos that they do now will have like either current stars, players who used to play in the league, and most recently there was a game Sierra Canyon was playing. This was like a high school practice game, going into the season, and you had Scottie Pippen there, you had Kenyon Martin there. The reason why they were there, their kids play for this school. So there, you're in the limelight. Let's say you go to an event and something happens, aka Robert Horry. Something happens of that sort. The minute you are acknowledging part of it, it's not going to be Kenyon Martin was at a Sierra Canyon game. They're going to look at it as Kenyon Martin knocked out a child. A former NBA player knocks out child during game, and son plays for the team and this, that, and the third. So it's all about the image and it's all about the approach. Even though you're retired or even though you're no longer playing basketball, you still have a brand and you still have a legacy and you still have like ways of being acknowledged.
I feel like it doesn't affect them as much as, say, like, the ball kids.
Right, yeah.
Just because their fathers, say, like, didn't play any sports. So at that point, like, now you're doing all this nonsense and you don't have any experience in the field, you could say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But definitely they still, as you said before, they still have an image to uphold as well, too. So, it definitely creates more distractions for their sons in that case.
Yeah, so we're going to close out here with the with episode 131. We're going to have a brief discussion afterwards so we can solidify our date, because I did mention that our dates will be changing. Because effective Monday, I will no longer be free on Saturdays. So I will be working and podcasting before work. It's likely going to occur. We've just got to come up with a solid date in doing so. So we'll come up with deets on that. I'm hoping we rock the show. We're going to rock it and make it happen. But I just want to address that with you all because we're making changes in the right direction. Continuing this show known as The Past. I'm going to end on that note. Like I said, even with doing the few show topics we did, we still almost got an hour and a half of podcasting done. So like you say all the time, if y'all stayed around, much props. Any closing remarks before we cap off?
Basketball season starts in 10 days.
10 days. And we may need to start, I guess we need to start looking at who we projecting to, because we haven't done any regular season picks yet, I don't think.
Nah, so we'll go ahead and add that in the next episode as well, too.
That should be fun. I'm going to go ahead and put my Rockets in, hoping that they can beat Golden State at least once this year. So we'll see. But until next time, The Past signing out. Take care. Did you make it to the end of the episode? If so, I do appreciate you listening and tuning in. These episodes get more and more valuable, and I do appreciate everyone taking time to sit down and listen to the episode. Whether you're actually listening to it once it's uploaded on Spreaker.com/Brate Podcast, or if you're downloading it and listening to it on your own convenience. If you want to check out any previous episodes, just check out that page. And if you'd like to inquire or provide any information or feedback or suggestions toward the podcast, please send those emails to pastpodcastbt@gmail.com. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Have a good week and be positive.